This weekend is now. This is a weekend for what we call big fights, and this is when we come out to get it popping with my man Otis, former world champion of the world. My man, what's good, brother?
Hey, what's going on with it?
You know what it is. We are about yeah we yeah. It's about to go down. I saw something that I wanted to show you, and we were talking about leading up to this fight. I knew it was going to be something that we wanted to actually take part in. I thought it was going to be in Hollywood, Florida. So I messed that one up, but I know it's in Anaheim. So, we got to support our brother. But I wanted to see if you had seen, part of that press conference from yesterday, day before yesterday, with Daniel Jacobs and Shane Mosley.
I didn't see any of the press conference. I seen the press conference. I didn't see the weigh-in. I seen the press conference earlier
Okay.
this week. Is that the one you talking about?
Earlier this week, yeah, and it was kind of like there have been several of these athletes that wonder to me, and basically, I just want the guys to have the game and understand how to run this game because they can. I'm talking about Shakur Stevenson and the Mosleys of the world. Like I want to give them the game, so I sit back and I watch them and I watch how they operate. And my biggest thing is if you're in the game, now I got a lot of guys who I'm helping right now coach, right? About their careers outside of boxing, outside of sports. I got NFL players, I got NBA players, I got foot fighters. And I'm saying with your career outside, you got to be intentional. So I'm watching these guys in the press conference and I looked and I just said, you're not acting really, really like the guy who is intentional. So that's kind of what I wanted to weigh in at the beginning because I just saw such lackluster energy in certain areas. And I was like, this is where you take control. This is where
Mm,
those opportunities come.
mm,
And, you were one of those guys, you could fight like hell in the ring, but you was reserved, but you were active with what you were doing. That's a part of it, right? Like taking part in the contender, being a part of things, flexing who you are. That's how you build your character up, man. But I saw Shakur, and he did do the pivot in a couple other shows. So, hats off to that. And all of you guys out there who are watching, we want you to do good. And this is a great card of fights this weekend. Did you see what went on with the Nate Diaz and Masvidal at that way press conference? I didn't see that thing. Did they show it? Was it a
I
video
saw
of it?
clips of it. Yeah, so
Oh,
me and Nate trained together for years, and I have a close relationship with him. So I seen clips of him. I'm always like looking on his page to see what he's gonna do next and everything. So yeah. I mean, those guys. Going back to what you just said. You got to play up. Well, not I won't say play up because usually you got to be in that mode when you come in. Like you are no longer uh, Shane Mosley when you walk in that building. Now you're or Shane Mosley Jr. I should say. You are Sugar Shane Mosley Jr. You know what I'm saying? When you walk in, and like you click into like I tell people, they're like, man, even you, they're like, dude, you were savage then. Da, da, da. I was like, that wasn't Otis Griffin. That was Triple OG. So that's
that's
how you got
Triple
to be. So
OG.
when those cameras turn on, you can't be lackluster or anything of that nature. You got to be ready. Like it's showtime.
You can't play. You got to think of it as an opportunity, and you got to realize that this is your chance. Like you've been in training camp all that time, holding back. This is your opportunity to say, "Oh, now I can really capitalize on all of this stuff that I was actually taking part in." So that's when you got to do it. You got to dive into this thing and say, "I'm going to be that person. I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out my tribe." And people think you have to sell out. I'm like, you don't have to go the Nate Diaz route. You don't have to go that route that some of these guys go. I mean, here's an example of us really telling the guys front and center, like a little bit about when it comes down to this fight thing, this fight game. The only thing you have to realize is that you just have to keep people, you just have to keep people entertained. You have to keep people wondering why should they be listening to you. So here's a reason why you should
Captivate,
listen. What? Huh? What'd you say?
captivate. You have to
You
keep
got
them
to
captivated.
captivate, or you got to captivate or stimulate. Stimulating is letting them know that you're about to tap something in their nerves. So when you see a stare off, that stare down at the weigh in, that's to captivate. It's to get pictures to captivate people who hadn't watched the weigh in. It's to captivate. It's to say what's about to happen. Or you're going to educate. Here are three things that I'm going to tell you that can turn every average fighter into a multi-million-dollar freaking success if you follow these three things. Who's going to turn off the stream then? Nobody, because I'm about to educate. And then you have to think about what exactly can you get out of this. You're going to give them an emotional rush. You're going to act like you're going to fight. You're going to pull a Barrera and Morales, pop, pop, at the press conference. Riddick Bowe, Larry Donald, pop, pop. What are you going to do? You going to get my emotions flowing? You going to get me pumped up? You going to start the fight before the fight? So I'm like, yeah, I'm about to, like, those are three options. Or you can come in there super classy. You can come in there and just carry yourself like astutely, like Sugar Ray Leonard. Everybody can't have those looks, but you can have that cachet. That's why Connor used a little bit of that. Floyd, even though Floyd came with antics, when he stopped the antics, he started to come in with swagger. You know what I'm saying? At the Canelo fight, he dressed all the way up. Look at Canelo. Canelo don't come in there wilding out. Canelo come in there with swag. He come in there in pajamas, silk pajamas. He's like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm coming to bring that smoke. Like, so right here, this is my last day because he's at his last supper. He's sending different messages. So that's what I've been just noticing. I can't miss it because that's what I do. I coach these guys up and stuff. And here's like when I thought about it, I looked at Daniel Jacobs, and my takeaway was from him. Did you see his interviews? Did you watch any of his interviews?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, he was kind of subdued, right? What else was your
Yeah.
takeaway? You think he
He's
came back to fight?
I think, well, Danny, if there's anybody that's ever been a fighter in life, it's Danny Jacobs. This guy has survived cancer. He's
Yeah.
gotten off the deck in a world title fight against Pirog that he was ahead on, and after being going through a humiliation stage and everything, got back up there to win two world titles again. He's been on the big stage with Gennady Triple G Gennady Golovkin, excuse me, and
Yeah.
as well as Canelo. So
Yeah, he
he's
knocked
been there
out Kid
before.
Chocolate, dude. My boy Kid Chocolate. Kid
Oh
Chocolate is
yeah,
my
oh yeah.
he's my Bible study buddy. Me and Kid
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate.
Yeah,
We
Kid
do
Chocolate was a
Bible
great
studies.
fighter too. He was a good fighter. I always liked Kid
Oh,
Chocolate, man. I say hello.
yeah.
Um,
He
and
chilling.
and that's
Yeah.
another lesson in that too, guys. These guys, even the fighters that I manage. Oh, I used to train with that guy. We used to spar. I don't want to fight him. Kid Chocolate, Danny Jacobs were damn near trained by the same person. Like they
Mm-hmm.
lived and breathed in the same space for almost a decade. Had to fight each
Yep.
other in the Subway Classic of New York. So
Yeah.
that shows you how hungry Danny Jacobs is. So getting back to him though, he did seem a little bit subdued in the moment. It might be everything that he had to go through. See, that's the problem, guys. When you have 2 years off, you got like, so the wheel is going this way. You got to change that wheel back to going the opposite way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that would be Shane Mosley's perfect time to strike is that, hey, maybe he hasn't gotten that wheel, the momentum of that wheel going back the other way yet, and it might be the perfect time to put him on your ledger. Put his
Yeah.
head on the mantle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, 2 years off. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's different. Like your body just doesn't manifest that. Shane is active in the second half of the fight. He's very quick and elusive when he gets warm, and he goes to sleep during fights, but so does Daniel Jacobs. He takes naps. Daniel
Mm.
Jacobs, fourth between the 4 through 7, he takes his cat naps, but he rejuvenates himself for the later sides of the fight, later halves of the fight. But when I
Yeah,
look at the ability, the athleticism from the last fight that I saw, really truly of Shane's, and I got to see, I just he looked good. He got hit with so many left hooks, very hard left hooks, and if that's Daniel Jacobs, it's going to be tougher to overcome that. But I believe
mm.
Shane, and I believe in Shane's skill set. I believe when he get in that ring, nobody really understands how good he really is, how tough he is, and how mean he is. And I think he has that in his favor. He's a lot meaner than people think he will be and can be. And so, I'm rooting for our guy when it comes down to it. Bottom line, because he's our guy. He is.
Yeah.
You just cannot get hit with them left hooks. You have to suffocate that thing because Daniel Jacobs got really hard fists, really hard punches. Even Sergio Moro was like, that was one of the hardest times I ever been hit. When he dropped me, he was like, yo, that dude can really punch and he can really hit. He's strong. So
And he's
I
big.
hope
He's big too. Danny, there's
he's
a
big.
picture that you guys may see of me online this week that I posted with me and Danny Jacobs. I'm a light heavyweight. I was active at that time. I'm a big light heavyweight too. At like 6'1", I walk around at like 195, 200 pounds. And
Yeah.
and here I am. I'm at a fight. I think I was working with might have been Sean Hawk or somebody like that at the time. But when I'm at the fight,
Mhm.
Danny Jacobs walks up and I'm like, "Hey, it's the Miracle Man." We get to talking, and I'm like shaking his hand, and like we said before, like, man, dude feels like iron, like literally, like
Yeah.
his hands and his forearms, like when you get hit by that, it's gonna do something.
He's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think like he was such a good match when he fought Triple G. I think that was tough. I mean, when he bumped heads with Canelo, and I think Canelo realized, yeah, this dude can really hit. I got to get on my defense really good. So I just think Shane got a great chin. I just don't think nobody's supposed to take 30 hooks though. Like I don't care how good the last thing you want to be is fight of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
against somebody that hit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Make it a
No,
great
no guiding
fight.
forward in this fight.
I'm about masterclass in the and laying out a boxing clinic. I want them to say, "Oh man, that was a clinic." That's what I'm talking about. But being a fight of the year, yeah, ask those guys who were in those fights of the year how that really they don't give you checks because of that fight 10, 15 years later. You don't keep getting checks because people keep saying that was a great fight. If that was the case, then yeah, keep being in those fights of the year because they pay you, but they don't. So you got to be careful about being in them tight fights. And I know people say, yeah, I like that tough fights. That's cool. But one day you're going to have kids. And if you don't even know how to talk, you got to be careful. So it's okay to be in a good fight, but have your defense. That's why I keep this QR code. If you're on your computer or you got your iPad, you can screenshot that. That's the 5 layers of defense. That's on us for free. We don't want you guys to get hit. And it's just that QR code down in the bottom right hand. And it just teaches you the fundamentals of defense. That defense isn't just like this, it's much more to it. But I'm excited about seeing Shane versus this Daniel Jacobs. It's very interesting. You know, were you surprised when you heard this fight mentioned?
I was surprised when I heard the fight was mentioned. I do remember Shane being on and saying that there was some big things that were coming up, and everything. I don't know if he particularly meant this fight, but he knew that he was going to have some kind of blockbuster fight. He actually mentioned in the interview that he was expecting another fight coming up, and then they offered this one, and it just made sense. And it really does because um, a fighter at a young fighter at Shane's level, you want to be able to uh, segue into greatness properly, and there's no better way than to fight somebody and beat them like Danny Jacobs because in the old war sayings, when I talk about World War and things of that nature, they say you keep what you kill. So you keep
Yeah.
in boxing. I translate that over to you keep what you beat. So if he beats Danny Jacobs, then he gets that onto his ledger. Everyone that was on Danny Jacobs' ledger now becomes Shane's ledger.
He definitely needs a few of those bodies with names. He got Gabriel Rosada. Nobody else really of recognition that's big time as far as name wise. But this is the beginning. You can start seeing names, and I know he was calling out. He was like he wanted to get up in the ring with Arislanda Laura, but now I also remember him saying Danny Garcia, because Danny's coming up. But Shane is tall, so he can go to 68 and he can probably get down to 55 because he's super lean. He looked really lean yesterday. He looked super lean yesterday on the scale. Special shouts out to my brother H Money in the building. Check out their YouTube channel. He's doing good things. He's representing the sport of boxing. My man, I appreciate you, brother. Oh yeah, salute back to you, brother. It's gonna be a good fight. Who you got, man? Who you think gonna win tonight? You think how will Shakur perform? H Money, he knows boxing. Yeah, you know what it is. Master boxing. We trying to make sure we got the game and we bringing out that smoke. But I do think. Let me see what my brother say. Shakur Stevenson. Yeah, he gonna do his thing. And guess what? My favorite fighter, I think is right now is Keyshawn Davis, and I'm being biased because he's from the DMV. But I'm gonna name some fighters from the DMV, and so y'all understand what it is I'm just not hallucinating. Let's go back to Sweet Pea. Let's go back to Keyshawn. Let's go back to Javante Davis. Let's go back to Sugar Ray Leonard. Let's just keep it real. And Frankie Randall. There is
Mm.
not just that's just not a regular body of fighters. Lamont and Anthony Peterson. We're talking about something different that happens there. And
Rottweiler.
I'm trying to tell people and over in Cali, you got your bed of people, the boys, they hit that big bear area. Like that's a tradition over there. You've built it. And I'm telling people there's a place like that that's right here, and it's not New York. And they are Flint, Michigan. Chris Bird, Andre Darrell, Clarissa Shields. People sleeping. I'm like, y'all got to start paying attention that there are these pockets in the United States that these different fighters are being birthed. Now, the DMV, you're talking about astronomical people because you take it back to the lineage, George Benton, all the way back to then. All of these different Sandler, you got all of these different layers of just killer teachers, Bowie Fisher, all of these, Nassim Richardson. It's just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of these guys that people don't understand. So it's good if you're in a boxing game that you really understand the history of boxing. So that's really what attracted me because it wasn't available to me that I was just a historian. I just lived it. Like I was the only person. Like people would be like, "Yeah, I love some boxing," and then they start talking to me, and they'd be like, "How you know that much about boxing?" Like so, no one else was serious. They were like, "Football, basketball. I love, you know what I'm saying. I love Dr. J, Larry Bird," and I was like, "I love fighting." You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was one of none. Everybody else was really on that. They were paper mache, and I was made of steel and clay. When it comes down to boxing, I had my collection, and that's why I got over 40,000 fights right now in my storage. I have a 25-foot yard storage unit garage that has all tapes, crates and crates and crates of every fight that's ever happened until I really stopped recording like a decade ago. Because you can record inside of your DVR and stuff. But I had them back up all the way to the first reel, to the first fight that was 38 reels a second, 1897. I got it all. And so Pat Cats talk that boxing, you don't even study the game. You know what I'm saying? You can ask these fighters today. I can name them three. Give me three fighters that fought before the 70s. And they couldn't do it. And that's easy. You know what I'm saying? You got Max Mellon, you got Jack Dempsey, and you got Rocky Marciano, Archie, the old Mama Goose Moore, Floyd Patterson, all of these guys, the turn of the century. You had Jess Willard, all of these killers, man. And if you really learn about the Bojacks of the world, you'll go back and see guys who had the frame of Tank. And if you look at the not just Bojack, but Ike Williams, these guys who were
Henry
purists in the ring.
Armstrong.
Henry Armstrong, and that's who I was going to say next, because of course we have affiliation with Edward Scott and those guys and to support it. But y'all need to understand the history. You really fall in love with the game and you start training more. You start training more serious, because there's levels to this shit, and the more you know about it, the more serious you'll be. Um, yeah, Shakur Steven breakdown Arnhem. I don't know much about that other kid because I don't get to study some of these off-brand guys. You know why? Because those dudes don't market. I don't see them. I don't know them. They don't come across my feed. They probably know me. I don't know them, and that's the problem. So you guys got to really understand.
I
You're only two.
I know I know the kid. Not to interrupt you. I know the kid Artem from watching tape on Martin.
Yeah.
With Frank Martin. So he'll be around. He'll be durable, but he's not anywhere in even Shakur Stevens' galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
If Shakur doesn't stop him, I would say that he had a little bit of a rust, a ring rust, or whatever, So
Yeah, I
it
don't
should
think it's yeah.
he should stop him in like 8 rounds or so.
H Money, I'm gonna get to your question too. If you got a question, let me know. I look at it as it's not about anybody else but Shakur, because anytime a fighter comes into the ring unbalanced, a power hitter, you already tell me everything. That ain't you can't beat a pure boxer as a power puncher. It's just not gonna happen. They're just not gonna surrender that. He's going to control his movement. He's going to control the range. He's going to fight when he wants to fight, and he's going to box when the other kid wants to fight. And so that's all boxing is. And until you guys really understand that there's not about what you do and what I do, it's about what you do is not going to work because I'm going to take it away from you, what you want to do. And if you that's the mindset going into a match, you understand why Floyd has success. You understand why Ray Leonard has success. Salvador Sanchez, Willie Pep. You understand why guys like that beat guys that they're not supposed to beat, because they are boxers. They are boxers. And boxing starts here, not here. And the minute a guy feels like he can hit the bag hard or hurt somebody with a body shot or a head shot, he feels like he's a good boxer. That just means you can punch hard. We call that attribute fighter. All right. I don't know how many of you understand what attribute fighter is. And if you do, you can drop it down in the comment boxes, but I'm going to break it down. If you come into the fight because you're tall or big or strong or fast, and that's what you're going to rely on, boxing takes that away from you. Therefore, it's nullified. Why else could someone that's like Sugar Ray Leonard nullify Marvelous Marvin Hagler's attack and Thomas Hearns' attack? Thomas Hearns was 6'1", had to reach of someone that's 6'7". He was fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, who was 5'10", right? So How do you beat this guy who's detaching guys from their consciousness? You got to punch when he's punching. So how do you do that? It's understanding the effervescence of closing the gap and understanding timing. So everything that everything that Hearns was doing was visible. Everything that Sugar Ray was doing is invisible to the naked eye. You get it? And that's boxing. Boxing is what you don't see. Boxing is what's not on the stats. It's not on the tail of the tape. You can't say he's quick-minded on the tail of the tape. You can just have his height, you can have his weight, his arm span, and his record. But boxing is inside. It's reaction time. It's all of those things like perception. It's understanding distance and range. Why don't they have that as a fucking stat? Who's really the guy that you're going to fight that night? That's one of the main reasons when you put Robert Guerrero in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, he's a blowout, 12 straight rounds, because those other guys are attribute fighters. So boxing was created as a human defense mechanism to go against the powers that be. Therefore, whatever you bring, that shit ain't gonna be enough because you're not boxing. You're bringing attributes, and my job is to take your attributes away. That's my only job. And then I'm gonna just beat your ass. And that's kind of how I train and taught all my fighters. That was their mindset. We talked an hour every day before training, a full hour. If your coach ain't doing that, you probably could do better. And that was because I literally had something to say. It wasn't because I was trying to say that. It was what was in me to tell them. And that's why all those days I recorded, it was pay-per-view worthy to see them, especially in the ring. They just was different. They operated different, So when you were in the fight game, Otis, you were always been cerebral, and you always had a different approach. I think you would have been a hell of a legendary coach if you decided to do it. Still never too late to coach, but at least manage. What are some things that you notice about these guys that they are not paying close enough attention to?
I noticed that these guys don't watch enough boxing. Like if you truly are in love with something, and that's not only for boxers, for all the athletes today. If you are truly in love with something, then you wake up, you eat, you breathe, and you even go to sleep thinking about that. If you really want to be somebody, a star in boxing, then you need to watch what he's saying. Go all the way back to 1872, 1889 or whatever. Watch the first videos, because guess what? They're not doing anything underneath the sun that they didn't do back then. Like, they got a new name for it, a new
Yeah.
name for it. Somebody actually discovered something. But if you go back, I guarantee, because I've done it, you're going to see stuff that can help you, especially if you are
Mm-hmm.
a very athletic fighter, or somebody that can be like water, can shift and move. For example, I remember thinking that my Jeff Lacy fight was a damn death sentence until I set up at Big Bear with John Tandy, and we watched 22 fights of Jeff Lacy, and I said, hold up, he got to get me against the rope. 90% of his knockouts are occurring when the guy's back is against the rope. And
Mm-hmm.
I started looking at old Mongoose tape, how to take away the hook. Well, how do you take away the hook? You stand, like most people would tell you, to run away from the hook.
Run
But no,
away.
I'm going to stand right there and I'm going to wall the hook off.
Suffocated.
Now the dude's arm got to come back here, and he's doing this all night because he can't. I'm standing right there. He can't hit me.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but if you don't watch all this old boxing, because there ain't enough new trainers to teach you this stuff. Like the new trainers, they've never
No.
seen it. They watch a couple IG rolls or
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather pad work, and they hit the gym, But there's that's why
Yeah.
they call it the science.
Well, those are trainers, and trainers, they show fighters techniques, but coaches show trainers how to actually execute the kind of work that they need to do in order to prepare them for me as the coach. And the teacher teaches the coach how to instruct the actual trainer in preparation for a fight, because the teacher is the person that is the higher version of the coach's thought pattern, his process. And then over the teacher is the professor, the person who actually created the blueprint of what they need to do. That's why there are only 5 downlines in boxing. And all of those people, is 5 of them on Mount Rushmore. If you watch my reel from earlier this week, I gave you all 5 of those names. And I learned from 4 of the 5. Not a lot of people have that luxury, but I did know, because I'm not from that, I didn't get a career because it wasn't accessible, that I understood that the more you are under the right people who think about everything, who actually written the blueprint of boxing. These are the guys who literally wrote the book of boxing, therefore helped me spawn 30 of them myself. So when you start to think about what they think about, things that I could tell you 10 things right now about boxing that you have never heard and you'll never hear, because it came from these guys who were professors. And so there's no teachers accessible still, really, at all, and definitely no professors. Emmanuel Stewart is the last of the Mohican. Like, that's a person that can take any level of fighter and make him a champion because of what he understands about the science. A trainer only knows this is how you do the techniques, and hopefully he's teaching techniques right. But reality is, they are hell spent on that. They're emotionally tied. They start to think that they're great trainers because they're good at techniques. We call those technicians. Oh, my fighter can do this. My fighter can do that. Don't get caught up in that, because your fighter has never gone up against a professor, because a professor will take everything away from your fighter. And then what? That's why you see those coaches on the sideline. The power ain't working now. Mungia, the power ain't working now because he's been stripped of his abilities to throw power. Kelly Pavlik, the power ain't working now because the angles changed when Bernard Hopkins took him away, because he came from a lineage of understanding what to do with anybody who doesn't understand the science. And you got to have someone who's graduated and has a PhD in the science, because as a technician, the only thing you're worrying about is how good he sparred, how good he looked, braggadocious stuff. And we just sitting back and looking like, yeah, we just did the contract with him. That's money in the bank. We got that. Go ahead and bet a bag on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know it's coming because they so ego driven about what they think their fighter can do. But their fighters have never been in a wreck. And that's what it feels like that night when you see your fighter getting hit in ways that you haven't never seen them get hit and exposed. And that's why boxing is so beautiful for the guys who understand it. And it's such a tremendous brain wreck. We just had a guy in our university had a fight with a fighter. Didn't get the green light from me for sure. Got, you know, got handed that L because they just were too emotionally driven by having access to all of that stuff that we have, and thinking that that's going to be enough. No, preparation for a fight is not preparation for training. Training, you need to have a team of people. And if you don't have a team of people, you will lose. Luck only lasts so long. So when I see fighters, I also look at how they've established their team and stuff. So you went to different camps. When you went to camps all over, because you were a student, you got put through that aggressive crash course of boxing, and you were very successful. You're one of very few people that will ever wear a world title, and you did it for real. What was one of the most impressive looking camps that you were able to take part in, that you actually saw a team of people surrounding the fighters at that camp? When you date back, what camp was that when you were like, damn, That guy got it all.
Uh, John Pascal would come over and hang out. You know,
Mm.
JoJo Dan, Adrian
Wow.
Diakonou. You know, so it was just like, and then he would bring in guys like me. So it was either you were a contender or a champion in this camp, right? And
Yeah.
but the way they had it broke down, the certain days that they do, like me, I was like, you know, burning the oil day and night because I thought that that's what it took. But a lot of times you can leave your fight in the gym. You know, you can overwork your body. You know,
Whew.
these they had it down. Run, run, and might only work on hands today, and it might be boxing or sometimes like throwing ping balls, react time, you know, and things of that
Yeah.
nature, or soccer for grabbing medicine balls and
Yeah.
throwing them over the top of a volleyball net to the other guy on the other side, and he has to grab it and throw it back over to you or whatever, you know, like, but that's explosion, you know, so it's just little things like that. I'll never forget being in Arthur Abraham's camp and him saying, "Oh, I'm going to do my road work." You know, this is of course like closer to the weigh-in. He
Mm-hmm.
went outside and there's a tennis court, and he went from one end of the tennis court. He would sprint it, and then he would backpedal back. He would sprint it, and he would backpedal back for 45 minutes. And that's what he's doing. Down,
Well, look, your,
you
your
know, that's what
Wi-Fi,
he's doing.
your
Yeah.
thing
So
going in and out
everything
is
was
yeah, that thing was your the Wi-Fi is freezing up pretty good. See if you can get her maneuver it a little bit. That was a good story right there. And those guys are gaining perspective because one of the things that I'm gonna say and try to cover this moment up until while you get that right is that you will compensate by overtraining a fighter. And like Otis was just saying, you're going to end up leaving it all in the gym because you don't understand where to start it and where to stop it because you're just trying to make sure your fighter gets to the right level. There are only three reasons why fighters lose fights. And I say it every single time. All right. The number one reason fighters lose fights is incompetence. That's in the corner or technically skill set wise. They don't train the proper time for skill development. So they become incompetent. You see these guys in the corner, when they're in the corner, they're calling for things that literally leave the fighter on quiz street. Number two reason that a fighter loses is because he's fighting in the wrong weight class because he got too much muscle, he's overweight, or he's simply living a lifestyle that's too fast for the or too much of a pace for the sport of boxing. He's drinking, he's partying, he's living the limelight because he doesn't understand that this is a professional sport and it requires a professional approach. And so lifestyle is number two. Bad choices will catch up with you in boxing. If you go down the chimney now and you see and ask guys like Adrian Broner if they would do it differently this time, I'm pretty sure that he would say, yes, I would totally do it different. And number three, why people lose fights is EQ. Yep, that's your emotional intelligence or lack thereof. You get impulsive and you slip on a banana peel and you get clipped. Kamara Usman in UFC had the whole fight won, had like 10 seconds left, gets clipped by Leon Edwards. KO, slip on a banana peel. EQ gets greedy. That impulse is real. So this is what we have to keep in mind. Keep the game simple. And when you got guys like in a position where they are now able to speak to this game, like I'm going to share the conversation with Shane Mosley. And what I want you guys to do, if you got fighters right now and this is your fighter, he's subdued, he's very reserved, and this is how he sounds prior to being in a fight and promoting his own fight. I want you guys to tell me what you guys hear.
A 168 pounder for Danny Jacobs. And he said Shane. And he said that before he even talked to me about it because he knew, you don't get opportunities like that. And then sure enough, he asked me about it. I said yes. And he said, well, that's what I thought. That's what I figured. And so now they had that. And so I said yes to Carlos Adames initially. But because this came about, I went with that guy over there. And I'll ask everybody else, no offense to Carlos Adames, but whose name is bigger, Danny Jacobs or Carlos Adames? Right? Danny Jacobs. So that's who you go for.
Okay. Articulate, clean, clear. What we want to know is what's inside. So we did some exuberant coaching. And so what I did is say, now if I'm watching, I don't know who you are. I mean, I don't really care because I need a reason. So there are three things that you got to look for that pull out emotion, something that creates intrigue about education when you're about to say, like Floyd say, I'm gonna show you what I'm going to do, and it's going to look real funny. Or Bernard used to say, let's see how I look when the angles change. That made you decide, I want to buy that fight. Here are things that you have to do. And if you go emotional, it's because you gotten in somebody's face. So you tap into those three emotions. And so here's what I did. I sparked them and I gave them totally different to the Mosley brand. Tell me what that is, brother.
This is my time, and you gotta let them know that it's your time and your turn the whole time. In the ring, you gotta be a control freak. It's a fight in there, so you gotta be able to use everything you have. Your legs, your arms, pushing them off balance, pulling them, even just hitting the gloves or hitting places that we don't normally aim for. And you gotta be able to utilize that, because if you do like that, what everybody else is doing, they're gonna be able to defend it better. But if you do things different, they won't be able to defend it as easily because they're not trained for it. That's what I've been working on, and I think that'll take me to being a world champion.
And that right there creates intrigue, stimulation, curiosity. I need to follow that guy because that's what we wanted to make sure that people understood, that he was more than just the son of a legend. And then we decided to take it to another level, because what this is what is called marketing yourself and creating interest. The week that we created this, I'm going to share this last video, and it's about 30 seconds. It may not even be 30 seconds, but this was Shane's response to my son when we were both on a call and I'm coaching the conversation up. And I said, my son wanted something. And Shane was like, he's going to be a dog kind of deal. He's going to be, he's talk in this video coming up. He's talking about my son, but he's using his father in comparisons. These are the things that we pulled out of Shane. And I love this one. Now check this out. People didn't know who he was before this.
He gave me was the fact that he could do it, and that he did it, and he showed me how to do it. I don't need nothing for that. Now that means I know I can do it because he did it. So by seeing you do it, by seeing you get all the success that you have, is more than enough. You don't need to give him a dime, because he showed. He said, my daddy can do it. So guess what? I can do it.
You see, he was like, my daddy can do it. So he was talking about my son to me, like, your son is going to just, all my dad did was, I needed to see him do it. Once I saw him do it, then I knew I could do it. And so that's what we do. We try to show you individuals who are in the fight game. I don't give a damn how good your fighter can fight. He ain't going to be Gervonta Davis, Mike Tyson, and shit like that. That's one in a fucking lifetime. He's going to lose. And if he doesn't have a connection with a particular 10 million people, then that's the end of his career. So you got to keep winning. So you got to understand these things. I'm coaching you guys right here. Keep following, and I'm gonna be showing you and telling you different things that we do to help these guys not just get a little recognition, but turn your shit into a real empire. The empire is what you use fighting for. Because if you in a fight game, you better be building your empire right now. And that money gonna run out. And immediately when the money run out, 2 years is over. That money's gone in 2 years. It's gonna be gone. So you might as well be working a minimum wage job. So I don't want you guys to do that. You know, yeah, I'm biased towards my boy Shane, because Shane, nobody knows really what it's like to have a legendary father. That's hard. That's hard because nobody wants to actually live under somebody else's name, you know? And the whole thing was to pull that moniker off of him and let him create his own identity. Just in those 2 days that those videos went up, his account grew 4,000 people. That's what we did. And I knew we would do it. And you can see the editing was pretty cool too. This was last year, exactly at this time, a year ago, period. That goes to show you the impact of we understand what you guys need to do other than being in the boxing gym, boxing all damn day. And we want to make sure you got the right pathway because every single fighter that's in the Hall of Fame right now would tell you right now, you better listen because you're going to run out of money. You will not have leverage. So the Shakur Stevens and these other guys who cannot get leverage, it's because of who you're under. Those people, those entities, those promotional companies, see, they're out for themselves. They don't care about your agenda. They care about their brand. They are Apple. They don't care about that little slip over the phone cover that's coming in season just for a year or two, and then it's gone. They got a new thing. That's who you are to them. So you got to realize this is the perfect time to build up your brand. Learn the 5 pillars of marketing your guy so he can get deals and opportunities. Write a book. Have him doing something right now that he really, really is living and wants to be a part of something much larger because you won't be fighting for long. Look at Daniel Jacobs. He really just kind of got moved out because he didn't win the biggest fight of his career against Canelo. Go back and look at his career since Canelo. He's had like one fight, and that's because boxing will do that. You're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden it's all gone, and that's why you got to build your career now, and you got to stay stable. So hopefully you guys enjoy the fights, support the fighters. But if you are in the fight game, like my boy H Money here, yeah, I don't know this individual by name, but I do know Coach Sean and those guys, and that's where they go up there. They go up there and train up in Norfolk. And my mentor is kind of over that whole program. So you got, you know, Keyshawn Davis and Kevin Davis and Nick, all of those guys. Nick is with Golden Boy. It's just a whole slew of these guys out there that's just absolutely killer. So, that's my stomping ground, Baltimore. Y'all hear me talk about it. Like if you're about to get into the ring in the ring against one of these boys, you better know it ain't what you think. That tape don't show you a lot of stuff that you're looking at. So it's a reason why every single one of those guys were legends, not just fighters. Sugar Ray Leonard. Let me go back down the list. Sugar Ray Leonard, Hasem Rockman, heavyweights in the building, Sweet Pea, all of these guys, Javante. This is not luck. This is one area. That's the DMB. So you guys be careful. Sugar Ray, come on now. You stop playing. Be real. Learn this game and understand how important it is to know more than just what happens inside of those 12 rounds. You got to know what happens before that fight, after that fight. Start doing some community stuff, knowing and learning and connecting with people who are in the world of entrepreneurship. This is a business. And if you don't think it is, ask a retired fighter, because they're living a lifestyle typically of someone who's making minimum wage. And it's a sad situation that we're turning around now. And we're going to teach them, because I've learned things. And so support your fighters, but be mindful. If you're in a fight game, get out of your own way. Don't let your ego attack you. I think Shakur Stevens does what he needs to do. There are a lot of things that I feel like right now that he could bring into his game that will make him more box office. One of the other things is understanding the two. There are only two components to business: audience and operations. So build your audience up so you'll get bigger fights. You can fight the big names, and it doesn't matter. Then you can get the big fights, because if you're doing numbers, you'll be just like Ryan Garcia fighting guys he ain't even got a belt, because he understands how to get numbers. He's level 3. All right, so that's it, man. Hopefully you guys take time and enjoy the fights tonight. Continue to watch, continue to follow. If you're learning, if you're focused on building up your game, because this game is just wide open. So entrepreneurship for life. Till next time, Coach Bradley, and I'm signing out. Be blessed at Godspeed, and I'll see you soon. Boom, in the winner's circle. Good luck on these fights tonight with the Mosley camp and the Jacobs guys, and Shakur, and my favorite fighter on the planet right now, Keyshawn Davis. Peace.